Alright, here we are playing Railroad Tycoon II. I started in 1860 playing in North America. There's a view of the railroad, and here's what's going on. Right now we are shipping logs from Knoxville, over there on our right, through to that station. We have two trains operating, hauling logs. There's Knoxville. It provides logs, pulpwood, mail, and passengers, and receives grain and sugar. I have not developed Knoxville at all yet. We'll just exit that for now. We'll go over here and take a look at Lexington Junction. This provides logs and pulpwood as well. And then we take a look at Lexington. Lexington, we have a water tower. I believe there's a sand tower there as well, and a roundhouse. That's where we would be dropping off logs. And then Nashville is where we can ship pulpwood. So, okay, we have two trains. We have one that's taking logs from Knoxville and Lexington Junction to Lexington, turning it into lumber, and they're either taking it to Nashville or back to Knoxville. Then I had this other branch built. This was going to take grain from Tupelo to Nashville Junction, to the cattle yard there, and then I would eventually connect to Indianapolis and ship the cattle to Indianapolis. And that will be shown later, as this video will show me building a railroad empire that eventually I would lose. But you're showing again Indianapolis, and you can see there's a coal mine along the tracks there. And I eventually am planning to connect to Chicago, and okay, now you can see you've grown up considerably. Nashville has gotten bigger. You now have double track going into Nashville, going to Lexington, and I believe it goes to Knoxville as well. We have more trains running. You can see that line. That line is coming on the left, is coming over from Nashville Junction. And you can see we now have more than 4 trains. Indianapolis is receiving paper from Nashville. We're shipping pulpwood into Nashville and then paper into Indianapolis. We have our train up carrying grain from Tupelo to Nashville Junction, where it'll exchange it for cattle, and then it'll go to Indianapolis and get food. And I believe from there it goes to Chicago and takes the food to Chicago, either there or to Fort Wayne. Yeah, it goes to Fort Wayne. Okay. There's Cincinnati. I believe I did connect to Cincinnati eventually. I was playing this and recording this yesterday, and I'm doing a voiceover today. And there I have a coal mine there now, and so I have two coal mines that shipping coal, that steel mill in Indianapolis. We're still doing the lumber business, shipping logs to Lexington and then the lumber to Nashville. And we have more coal up there, and there's an iron up there, and I will be connecting to that and shipping the iron to Indianapolis, which will be making steel, and then shipping the steel somewhere else. Here we're fast forward quite a bit. We're now in 1920. And you can see we have a lot more trains working. We now have 282 Mikados and 462 Pacifics in charge of most of the trains. There's still a few other things. There's still some 460s and some 260s in places where they operate better. There's one 442 there. And you can see we have over $4 million in cash. At this point, my investors were getting mad at me. Even though the railroad was making money, they're getting mad at me. And here's the system. As you can see, we stretch up to up northern Michigan and Minnesota, all the way over to Los Angeles. And here's we're starting to lose money, but this starts happening in the 1920s. For some reason, in the 1920s, the railroad just starts losing money with no explanation. Over here, we're shipping a lot of grain and food. The railroad is shipping, you can see that Train 43 is hauling chemicals. It's heading to Indianapolis. We ship chemicals and fertilizer and steel, manufactured goods, passengers, mail, wool. There's a chemical plant and such. There's a recession ahead, and that's going to mess up the railroad even more. We have coal. There's right near that spike is a bauxite mill. There's Columbus. We don't serve Columbus. We don't serve Cincinnati. There's Indianapolis. It's grown, so it provides chemicals. There's a couple of milk processing plants, a steel mill. There's Nashville with its paper mill and textile mill. There's coal mines there. There's Knoxville. Knoxville hasn't grown much because we don't ship to Knoxville a lot. Over here we have textiles coming in, cotton and such. And Tupelo has grown quite a bit, even though we started doing passengers and mail to there. This is Jackson. Connected to Jackson, there's an oil well, and right with a cotton place right there. Lots of trains moving. That looks like a 462 Prairie, a 262 Prairies, that blue scheme. There's some paper rolling. There's more cotton, more cotton. There's a steel mill that's in Houston. It's a paper mill in Houston. We serve Corpus Christi. There's a refinery there. And we go down into Mexico, Matamoros, and Tampico. And here I started over. I lost the company. I went back to a save and tried to see if I could do it better. And I did do better. I lasted a little bit longer. But unfortunately, they did it to me again. It got to the 1920s, 1930s, and it started losing money hand over fist. No matter what I could do, I couldn't turn a profit. I don't know what it's. I think it's something up with the game. I kept updating locomotives, making sure that they were the best and were reliable, so they didn't have any breakdowns. But for some reason, the goods just weren't paying money anymore, and I'm not quite sure why that happens. I think it's something that happens with, I think it's a glitch in the programming Railroad Tycoon 2, that you get to a certain point and they don't want you to make money anymore, and they just take away everything, loses money, maintenance costs go through the roof, fuel costs go through the roof, you start losing money uncontrollably for some reason. Trains don't get hardly get any revenue, and yeah, it's. But here you can see that you got cotton still, right? You can see all those trains 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all powered by 280 consolidations. Have still quite an extensive network at this point. There's Shreveport. That's a cotton line. They're getting cotton out of all those. We'll put a sanding tower and a water tower there, and shipping cotton, going to Shreveport, picking up more cotton, and then I believe it goes to Jack. And let's look at other places. Here we have San Antonio. There's a steel mill there. I'm trying to ship stuff into there. That's a single track because there isn't very much traffic on that point. At one point, eventually this would have double track and multiple trains going before I lost the company again. Or I might have just quit this time before I lost control of the company. Freeport Crossing. Stuff for that. And is here a diamond there. Okay, here we're in another part. You can see a lot of trains going in and out of Lexington. There's one train. There's our logs. We're going to replace that locomotive with a camelback. On the next railroad, I didn't really use camelbacks because tried to only use locomotives that had a good balance of level and steep terrain, and the camelbacks in this game are only good for steep terrain where you have a lot of grades. And when there's flat running, they're not work as well. Now the real camelbacks, they were pretty much flat running and they were meter locomotives, but for some reason this game has them be more mountain railroads. Oh look, number 7 has had a breakdown. Taking a look at our empire again. Double track, Jackson. You see, this is actually a different railroad because the trackage through Jackson is different. And look at that. Look at that. Earning $1 million. $3 million. Got connected to New Orleans, Mobile. There's an automobile plant in Mobile. Got wood going to Birmingham, or lumber going to Birmingham. There's Atlanta. I haven't connected to Atlanta yet. This railroad the investors took control of shortly, and I started another railroad that was a Seaboard Coastline, named it the Seaboard Coastline. This one is called the Chicago Pacific. Or was this the Ohio and Western? I didn't pay attention to the financial report. They have connected to Corpus Christi, hauling cattle. There's a 460, there's a 280 in San Antonio, there's a 262 with cattle there, 262 camelbacks hauling oil. There's oil going to Lubbock. There's iron ore. There's El Paso. We go over here. El Paso. We have grain going into Chihuahua. And then the food, I think I shipped the food to El Paso. And there's the electrics. This is after the investors took over. You can see the little symbol above everything that signifies that they own it. Yeah, Chicago Pacific, yes. The Ohio and Western is the one I'm currently doing, which is 1950s and is doing fairly well. Looking over the system of the railroad that I built, and then the investors took it away from me for absolutely no reason. Losing money for no fault of my own. It just wouldn't earn money no matter what. And then somehow, without doing a thing, it all of a sudden started earning. When I was working on the Seaboard Coastline, which I don't think I included in this video, they turned the company around without doing a single thing. They didn't do anything. They managed to start earning $3 million a year, and I'm not quite sure how it did that. I think, as I said, I think this game is messed up. But that's the end of this video. Take care.